Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And I am super excited about today's conversation. We have Sandra Sabatini to thank for this opportunity. She is a team member for ProGuard Security Services. And with us today is CEO Neil Swillen and JJ Amjadi.
Correct.
I've got it. I can do that. I thought I was going to mess up on Neil's name, but I did okay, huh?
We did okay.
We did okay.
Really good. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Okay, I can tell your microphone's already acting weird, so I'm going to hop over there and fix that. I don't know what that's about, but let's settle in. We want to have a conversation about ProGuard Security Services. I am looking forward to learning about who you are, how long you've been in business, and why Arizona. And all that good stuff. So give me a second. Actually, JJ, would you mind, since I have to play with Niels' microphone, can you introduce yourself first and really tell us a little bit about your career and what led you to become part of the team at ProGuard Security?
Sure. My name is JJ Amjadi. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for ProGuard Security Services. I've been in the security industry for about 12 years. Prior to that, I had a varied background in law enforcement and in national defense. I was part of the Marine Corps. So yeah, for about 12 years, I've been in security, and about 5+ years ago, after having worked at a couple of security companies, Niels reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey,
LinkedIn, yes.
Do you want to talk security?" I said, "Okay." So he wined and dined me. We met and had a nice lunch. And, after that, it just kind of grew. And from then he asked me if I wanted to come over to ProGuard and be his number two, essentially, and build up the company. And that was back in 2018.
Why did you say yes?
Well, the company that I started out in security working for a large security company, which was, a multi-billion-dollar company, and then went to a smaller regional company. And that was good. But that company was also being acquired by another, large company. So the timing was just right, I would say.
Perfect. Okay, now, thank you for that introduction. How about for you? I would love to hear your background, how this all came to be that ProGuard Security Services is even a company. Right. And then I would love for you to segue to the connection with you and JJ as well and why he's the right fit for you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This is very exciting. Being on the air, telling the story live, actually. That's really exciting. So yeah, ProGuard has been around since now 2015. So JJ joined not far after we actually got started. And my background is not so much in the security field until, well, now I guess there are a few years that's been played out behind me, but I came into the security industry in 2001, late 2001, actually right after 9/11, and worked for a very small company at that time and kind of took that off and ran with it. And when I exited that company, I started a new one and started from scratch and took the expertise that I had developed over the years and the contacts that I had and built it into my own company. And building a company is not a one-man show or a one-woman show. It's a team effort. And by bringing good team players onto the platform, onto the company, we were able, I should say, to build a really robust company that has now become a regional player on the West Coast, and we're servicing. We've grown out of the Bay Area and has a very strong footprint there, and we're now leveraging that and taking that into new markets like Phoenix and Arizona and South Cal as well. Are two new markets that we are expanding into.
Mm-hmm. And so I love that JJ said that you two connected on LinkedIn originally. We often hear those stories, right? It's such a great platform for professionals to get to know each other and maybe even steal each other away from other career opportunities. What was it that JJ was doing that struck you as someone that you might want to, get to know and then have be a member of your team?
Well, I had read, or come to understand that looking for, if you want to bring on good talent, don't necessarily go out there and look for number 2 and number 1 in a company, but look for number 3 in a company, because number 3 in a company is probably not going to, they're kind of stuck in a way. They can't really move to number 2 position. They can't necessarily move to number 1 position because there's people there blocking them. So they might have had a longer career for a company. They've kind of peaked out in that career, or in that company, I should say. Unless there's a big shakeup or for that company. So I kind of took that to heart, and I was looking for individuals with the suitable background who were number 3 in different companies. And that's pretty much where JJ were at the time. He was running a larger branch, and I knew the company. Obviously, the industry it's fairly small from one point of view. It's a big market, but it's a fairly small industry. We know each other to some extent, and I knew about that company, and I knew about the number 1 and number 2 in that company, and I knew that they were not going to go anywhere. So that was one of the driving forces why I started engaging with JJ from a superficial level. And then when I got to know him, I realized that, yeah, he and I can click, we can work together, and we can support each other. So obviously there's a chemistry there that you need to have to work together. And being together for 5.5 years, I think it's getting closer to 6 years, actually. I think that's been proven that we can work together pretty well.
Yeah.
I didn't know you felt that way. Appreciate that.
And we have it recorded and live.
Right,
so
exactly.
You can never go back on those words.
Right.
I read when I was kind of preparing for our conversation today, something that surprised me, and it was the word holistic, right, as it relates to security. The word integrated makes sense to me, at least from my own perspective. But can you talk a little bit about, what do you mean by a holistic approach to security? And of course, why is that important?
Would you like to?
You can go first. I'll do a second.
Yeah, you can jump in there, jump on
Yeah.
top of each other. And I like it when I can sit back and just
Yeah.
listen and let you guys
Right.
have your conversation.
So I think the word holistic came from Sandy, our business development manager. But our bread and butter in terms of how we operate as a company is that we're large enough to handle any account, but we're still small enough to respond to our clients and care.
Mhm.
We're very process driven as a company, and everything that we do has a process behind it. And that's, to Niels's testament there. He's very process driven himself. And so we're able to look at everything that we measure and see where we went wrong if we made an error on something. So that's what I would say in terms of the brains of the company and how we really operate on a day-to-day. I don't know if Niels has anything else to add to that.
Well, so one of the things that so my background is actually more of an engineer. I have an engineering and finance background, so it's very helpful to actually work in the security field. Yes, you need to have security knowledge, but you also need to understand how the industry works from a perspective. It's very decentralized. You have individuals who are working by themselves at different locations, or they're working as a team at different locations. You don't necessarily have an office that everybody goes to and meet up every single day. You have a corporation that then sends out security officers to different locations, and those security officers need to be able to handle themselves without direct supervision every single day. So the approach we've taken and the way I view things is that you really need to be clear in your processes. You need to be clear in what the officer is supposed to be doing. You need to define it very well, and give the opportunity to the officer to really understand the work. So that's really the processes where they come in. Then the second part to that is how we train them and how they're being trained to deliver to those expectations. So what we have set apart, we try to simplify the market in a way, or to simplify the business model in a way. So we've broken it down into people, training, processes, and technology. And those 4 corners are really the foundation of how we operate. So when when you look at the people, we're looking to hire people that really fits the mold of the position that they should fit, or that they should fill. They need to be able to have the right skill sets. But if they have the right attitude, that could be also a determining factor. If they have the right attitude, we will give them the skill set to do the job. So we will train them. Training is an extremely important component within the company. We measure ourselves against training every single day, where we are evaluating our managers, our officers, how the training is being implemented, how it's being executed. So it's really a foundational part of the business, how we operate. So, and then the processes and the technology is there to really help the officer in the execution. So the technology, we look at technology in a way that how can we utilize the technology to improve the efficiency and also improve the quality of our security officers.
From the perspective of the client or the customer, the business that's utilizing your services, what you've had a good day, or you're providing great security when that C-level executive comes back to you and says, "Hey, thank you for what is that story? How do you know you're doing well?"
Well, I mean, there are all kinds of different situations or stories to be told in regards to that. How do we do that? We're doing well. Well, first of all, from an ongoing business perspective, we have our reviews. We really sit down with our client on a regular basis and review our performance. It's like, hey, please, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, can you tell us how we're doing? And so we have our KPIs that we go over, our key performing indexes, and they really are the foundation to how we are measuring it ourselves and how we are communicating with clients. And then that sometimes the conversations are really good, and hopefully they are. I mean, but it's mostly important is that we also as partners. I mean, we go in when we work with our clients, we really look at it as a partnership, and we're not necessarily the right company for everybody, because we want to work with clients who really value security, that they see that this is something that we want and need for our business. And so we come in and then we work in the partnership with those clients, and they give us feedback and they say, well, this is what we want. And then we work on delivering those things. And it's really an ongoing partnership that you need to foster every single day. We are a vendor, but the client have their options to pick somebody else, obviously, but we really want them to understand that we're there for them every single day.
And just to add to Niels's comment there, my ideology, and I think it kind of resonates with everybody else as well. Our executive team consists of Rich Freitas, who's our Chief Operating Officer, and Ron Bishop, who's our Chief Financial Officer, and Eva Alexanderson, who's our Chief Compliance Officer, and Richie Cabanero, who's our Vice President of Operations. What I've learned in security is that you have to stay engaged with your client. To his point, when I worked at some of the other companies that I worked at, I had too much work on me, right? They put too many hours on me, too many clients on me. And if you're not able to be engaged all the time, then, things start to go sour. And then the only time you hear from that client is when they're upset. So having an engaged relationship with your clients where you're proactive and you're constantly talking to them on a daily basis, bi-daily basis, makes it easier to have those tough conversations. Sorry about that. Makes it easier to have those tough conversations when things go wrong, because invariably things will go wrong from time to time, right? It's not perfect, right? But as long as we're engaged with them and having that ongoing communication, it always works out to the betterment of the client and the site.
We had recently, actually last week, we had a big industry event or a big event that's put together by an organization that we're part of, and it's one of my favorite events, actually. It's a ballpark event put together in San Francisco, and we go to the game afterwards. it's very rewarding when you're walking around there, and there's a lot of our clients there, and they actually come up and they thank you. And that happened a lot last week. So that is an indicator that you're doing something really well. There was even some, group photos and so on where they come up and they want to take pictures with us, and so you feel the appreciation, you feel that the client is there, they feel that they recognize us. So I really, for me, that is very, very valuable, and then that keeps on motivating me to do a really, really good job and putting a quality security service in front of the client.
Yeah, they're proud of the partnership is what I'm hearing.
Proud of the partnership.
Yeah, communication is key. I would agree with you on that, JJ. I'm guessing that there are times in your industry, in the way in which you serve your clientele, there's going to be surprises. But if you're already in communication on a regular basis, they know and trust you, and they know you've got it handled. So those tougher conversations are easier when you're always in communication with them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about being an outside security vendor versus in-house. Like, I mean, as if our listeners and myself, we don't know anything about it. Do companies often employ their own team for security? And what are the advantages to working with a company like yourself?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. For in California and Arizona, you have to be licensed to provide security officers, and a lot of companies will kind of go in-house, if you will. Some will actually have proprietary security officers that they'll get licensed, but a lot of industries like the hospitality industry, they will basically hire people to kind of be security, but have a different role, right? So they're not licensed. The advantages of going with a vendor such as ProGuard is that, you have that vendor-client relationship, and our employees are our employees. They're not their employees. So if there's an HR matter, it's our employee, and we'll handle that HR matter. If there's a workers' comp issue, someone gets injured on the job, that's for us to deal with, and not for you as the client. So those are a couple of the advantages of having a security vendor. I don't know if you want to add to that, Niels.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely situations where an in-house security team is warranted, and there are also situations where it's not. So the market is divided in it's not 50-50, but there's in-house and there's outsourced, and the bigger part is outsourced today. But there are benefits if you have the manpower, if you have a really big budget, then it could be beneficial to have them in-house. But outsourcing security, in my opinion, is a much more flexible way to go. And if it's not your core competency, why invest the money into it? Because that's what we do. We really invest money back to systems, personnel, training, how you upkeep the training. It is an evolving industry. It's not the same as it was 50 years ago. It's different things that officers need to be trained on. There's new compliance issues that they need to be brought up to speed on. So there's an ongoing educational component of the security industry that you need to stay up on as a company. And if you don't have a lot of resources to deploy to the security side of your business, then you are, in my opinion, not utilizing your dollars the best way, because that know-how comes with bringing in the right security company. Clearly, there are a lot of different security companies out there, and some of them are smaller and some of them are bigger. And not everybody provides the same level of service and provides the same level of expertise. So it's very important that you find the right partner for yourself when you make those outsourcing decisions.
Let's expand on that a little bit. How, as you're vetting your clientele as much as they're vetting you, I would imagine, right? It has to be a mutual a decision. Who is a best fit for you and who might not be a great fit for you? Are you industry agnostic? Is it company size? What are some of the factors that you look at, and even personality or culture as well? What are you guys looking for?
Yeah, so I'm sure Niels wants to relay on this as well, but I'll just talk a couple of points. Again, the partnership has to be there with the client. So if a client reaches out to me and says, I'll give you 50 sites tomorrow, but I want, the lowest bid that you can possibly give me because I don't want to pay that much. And, and I don't want that much communication with you, those are the kind of clients that we're not going to go forward, regardless of how much money we're going to make or how many sites we're going to get. So having that partnership is definitely very, very key for us. And the different verticals that we want to focus on are really like the commercial Class A space, residential HOAs, things like that. We made a conscious decision recently in California to at least kind of get out of the retail space, because there's a lot of liabilities coming with that,
especially in California.
especially in California. So so we kind of pick and choose who we want to work with and the spaces that we want to get into, because it's going to be the ultimate driving factor for our success.
Yeah, no, we definitely vet our clients to the point where we are seeking partnership, as JJ said, but clearly they're vetting us as well. But the industry is not one shoe fits or one size fits everybody. There are different vendors for different needs, and what we are really focusing on is a quality product that we want to put forth, a quality service that our clients can trust and rely upon, that will most likely not come at the cheapest cost or the lowest cost. There is a price associated with quality, as we all know, and the expectations put forth by the client is really what we analyze when we are vetting a client or looking at what they want to have. What are the expectations? How's this relationship going to work? We are less interested to have a client and then later lose it. We want to take on clients that are going to stay clients for a very, very long time, and that helps us in our operation because we create stability within the company. We create stability with the client. We also create stability with outside stakeholders that are not necessarily our clients, but they maybe be clients in the future. But they see that our clients stay with us for a longer period of time. They know that we're not a company that just comes in and keeps a contract for a year, have some kind of revolving door and needs to replace a contract with a new contract. That happens quite a bit in the industry, where the people are just out there chasing a new contract. We really want to be there with every single client for the long term.
And I believe that goes back to what JJ was saying, right? Making sure that relationship and the conversation is ongoing so that everything's managed. Does risk assessment come into play as you're building out a strategic security plan for companies? And what does that look like?
Very much so. I mean, we look at every aspect of the client's business and how they are in need of security. I mean, there's been situations as well where we say, well, this is not the right solution for you, where you say, well, we need the security officer. And, well, no, you might be better off with some other measurement than a security officer, maybe some technology. So we want to, even if a client doesn't become our client, we want to be there as professionals and really help individuals make the right decisions. But clearly the assessment is kind of the foundation, how we design a security program for you. Sometimes it's just a simpler assessment. It's one egress and that's it, and we just need one officer. Sometimes they're very, very complex assessments that we have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 99% of the new business we get is we're taking over for another security company. So, again, the operations team, we've kind of, I don't like to say this word, I don't want to pat myself or the team on the back too much, but we've mastered kind of like the transition process of taking over an account from, another company. And a big part of that is having an empty slate, and so as soon as you take over the transition process, you want to look at the security program all over again. And we like to go back to our clients and go, yeah, you know what, this is a good fit. Let's stay with this, or let's shift to this, and working some technology with man guarding, et cetera. So we're always constantly kind of trying to refine security solutions for our clients.
Yeah. And you are here to toot your own horn. So keep doing that. I mean, that really, it is not rainbows and lollipops all the time. We can talk about some of the challenges in growing the business and working and staying with clients. And at the same time, you're here to really brag. So let's keep that up. Let's talk about developing your team. You mentioned some other members of your leadership team. who's responsible for training those people? Is it multi-tiered? Are they multi-involved? And what are you looking for when you're hiring security professionals?
So, I mean, our management team, you know, we're in the positions that we are because we've had
The
certain amount of
expertise, yeah.
expertise, right? So, so Niels is more of a, mentor to me than developing me, right?
Mhm.
But our security officers, on line staff, level, we always have, like to Niels' point, tailored training programs for them. We want them. We're very employee centric, right? And when we understand that in this space we have to be different than some of the other security companies. We're often hiring people that have worked at 5 other security companies, and they are, weren't happy. They ran into the same issues. Their paychecks were wrong. They didn't get any training. They were just stuck out on a post and told to just, here's the keys, and So we want to be the anti of that. And so when we bring people in, we want to kind of show them the culture and show them that we're an engaged company, and that if they want to progress up the ranks and become a supervisor and manager, we're going to give them those opportunities to do that, and we'll cater to that and give them the various training that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have built out a strong management team and a good executive team that's really leading the work for the company. I'm very impressed with the people that I work with on a daily basis, to toot my horn, or their horn, I guess. But they do come with a lot of expertise, a lot of experience, and on their own, and they were brought into the company in different fashions. Obviously, as we talked before, the way me and JJ met, and then other people came in later on. But there's also a need for understanding the culture, understanding, sharing the same goals, and so on. So we worked on that as a team. I like to sit down with all the executives on a regular basis to discuss about the long-term plans, about our strategy, and have their input to and how we're going to grow the business. So I listen a lot to what they want to do with the business, how we're going to go about and do it. And so it's an ongoing conversation. And in that conversation, there are learning opportunities for everybody. So I try, as JJ said, I'm trying to mentor people to be at their best performance and come up with ideas that we can share and then work on it together. One of those ideas that we have decided a long time ago is really to, what JJ touched upon, to focus on all of our employees. So one of my biggest passion running the company is actually to give opportunities to our employees. Not everybody who is working in the security industry today are necessarily offered a second opportunity or a third opportunity. If they don't have that, we want to be that. As long as you are there to, if you're interested in bettering yourself, we want to be the platform where you can do that. We want to be giving you the tools to better yourself, to move up in the ranks, going from a security officer to a supervisor, going to manager. You can improve your own quality of life quite a bit, and moving up in earning, or rather your earning potential, I should say, by moving up in the ranks. And we can give you the tools to do that. We can give you the training to do that, and we can give you the platform to do that. So as long as you're there to really learn and soak up everything that we put in front of you, you have an excellent career opportunity with ProGuard.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, again, similar to what I did with your clients and your customers, from an employee perspective, perhaps somebody who is out at a site on a regular basis and taking care of ProGuard over there on behalf of a company. How do you know that employee loves working for you? What are they coming back and saying to you? Is it around this opportunity to be mentored and shepherded into, a greater version of themselves professionally and even personally? Is it that they feel like they're a part of that site and that team? What are some of what's some of the feedback that you hear from people that yeah, we're hitting our mark on this when it comes to culture?
Very, very good question. And some employees, they do tend to become more site oriented than company oriented. But we have managed to by our different culture, by the culture we have and the approach that we take to it, most of our employees become more company oriented, in my opinion,
Mhm.
because they see that we are really putting forth the effort to improve their training, their situation, or not situation, but rather their performance, I should say. So they become loyal to the company, but obviously they are also loyal to the client. So there's a dual relationship there. Um, but the feedback we get is from supervisors, it's from clients, it's from managers, and so every single officer has a career plan. What do you want to do with your career? Do you want to move up? Do you want to stay at the security officer position? So we give them those opportunities, and then there is an ongoing evaluation every single year, at least once a year, and the officers are being evaluated, and they have these conversations with their managers, and in those conversations, the officer obviously gives their feedback as well. What do they think? What can be done better? So we're very open to feedback on any kind of level, on every level within the company.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then there's also measurements to be had that show, how employees feel about us. This industry, the security industry, the turnover ratio can be anywhere from 100% to multiple hundreds of percent. Meaning you're, revolving your employee count twice, 3 times every year. And we're lucky that we were able to tout that we actually have like a sub 40% turnover ratio year over year, and that's been like that since I've been here, since 5 years or 5+
That's
years ago. So that in itself tells you that people like to work for us, and they want to stay because they feel valued.
and what so I ran a preschool years ago for a couple who owned it. It was a franchise, and same thing industry wide. It's a turn 'em and burn 'em. These preschool and daycare teachers are just, they get burnt out very quickly, and it's a revolving door. And I was really thrilled when we built this team from the ground up that for the 2.5 years that I was there, I think we had one person that wasn't a great fit, and I had to ask them to leave, but everybody else was on board. And I can tell you specifically why it is that we did it, right? It's nurturing and caring and making sure that people understand their role. Is there something that you could highlight? That's really a great statement about who you guys are, that you're setting an industry standard. What is that? What's the secret sauce? And are you willing to say it? We've talked a little bit about it, but is there an approach? Is there something beyond the open communication and these reviews, right? Is there something within the culture that's baked in the culture that people are like, this is just where I want to be for my career?
We can definitely talk about it, because so there's no real secret sauce in that way, but it's really, how do you treat people?
I think that is secret
It's
sauce.
okay.
We can talk about it, but not everybody really knows how to do that.
Right.
And clearly, even in the 10 minutes that we chatted outside in the green room or lobby, I like to say green room because it sounds better, but I can tell that that's your commitment to getting to know people, that the two of you work well together, and you're just two representing, several other teammates. People don't always know how to take care of people. So speak to that.
It's true, I guess. But it's to me, it comes back to what I said before. One of my passions is actually training. I like to be in front of a group of people and trying to teach them something, or share some. I should say share something, and then if that's teaching them something, or if it's a learning opportunity, that's not for me to decide. But hopefully, it is a learning opportunity. If you are passionate about that, if you feel that you want to contribute to other people's success, then that will come natural in a business. And I don't personally, if I hear about somebody who's been mistreated or who's being neglected, I'm not very pleased with that. So the managers in the company understands that this is not just some C-level poof thing that we're just talking about in closed doors. This is something that's real. This is something that we all have to live by. And by doing so, we have established a good culture where respect is it's high on the list. It's like we don't live in a hierarchical world in that way, that oh, I'm your supervisor, therefore you should do what I'm telling you. No, you do what I'm showing you. It's like leading by example. We've all heard these things. We've all seen it on some motivational speaker thing, what you're supposed to do. We've seen it on some PowerPoint presentation. But what's really, in my opinion, what's really the secret sauce is the execution. How do you implement it? And people have asked me many, many times, what's your competitive advantage? And if you look at the security industry, okay, we provide a security officer, we provide a uniform and so on. You might argue, well, there's not many competitive advantages, but I've come to realize the execution, how we do it, is really the competitive advantage. Execution can and should be a competitive advantage, and that is how we are treating that. Like we get it right, the first time, and we focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a security officer to feel valued, to feel that they're heard, they need to have a manager that they can reach out to that's going to get back to them, right? And call them and have those common decencies, and have those conversations with them. So one of the things that we do as a company, and this is ultimately up to Niels, is that we carry some overhead because we don't want to overwork our management staff, right? So we will cut them off at a certain point where we know that it's no longer going to be capable of them to get back to every client, get back to every officer. So we're willing to kind of take that on the chin, if you will, a little bit more than other companies who are really just looking at the bottom line and concerned about profits more than people.
That reminds me of what you said. Sorry, Niels, what you said when you were introducing yourself. Like one of the things that you really wanted to have was a little bit more of that balance and not be so overtaxed that you could do a great job.
Right.
So you've carried that on behalf of the rest of the team and brought it into this company.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I have conversations with other industry experts, and I've been talking to equity partners and so on, and they're like, oh, what's your margins? And we discussed, but just with other industry people, and yeah, our margins might be slightly less than other people, but that's not that important to me because we're a good company, we're growing, and what's more important then is that the people working for the company is taken care of and actually are not overworked, and they are able to have a life outside of work and actually take care of their own employees as well. Take care of themselves and their employees.
Your measurement of success is slightly different than
it is.
than just the margins, right?
Yeah.
And that to me shows longevity.
And it's proven to be a good recipe.
Yeah,
So,
very good.
yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about security concerns, right? What is not maybe trending is not the right word, but what are you aware of? What are your customers calling and saying? Have you heard about? I don't know if it's robberies or if it's cars that are parked over the weekend and people are camping your parking lot. I don't know what it is, but what are the security concerns that you're taking care of and the threats that your clients are worried about?
Well, one of them right off the bat is that tenancy. So a lot of buildings are empty these days, right? Post COVID, and so we have to work with our clients a lot to perhaps give them other avenues of security because cost, is a concern, obviously. So one of those is being able to do that, but provide those solutions as well. So our newest solution that we have launched is that we have a remote monitoring solution. We have a security operations center that can take in feeds from our clients, and you mix in a little bit of AI and put layers of AI over the camera feeds. We're able to monitor those, get live triggers, and see what's going on, and even talk down to people over a microphone on a camera, and that comes at a cost savings for the client. It's probably like half the price of what it would be to physically put someone there. So we understand that as a company, we need to be able to evolve in that way and be able to give our clients everything that they want.
Peace of mind.
That's one of those trends.
Yeah, actually, it's a good question. So yesterday we had a we had a big conference, a mini conference put together, and we called it the security ecosystem. And we were representatives from, it was ProGuard who had it. We put it together, and we brought in other vendors who presented with us. And it was us, it was technology companies, and there was also an insurance company. And we spoke about what kind of threats are out there. And one of the things, as JJ just mentioned, is the vacancy has gone down for a lot of properties, and they might be completely vacant, or the vacancy has gone up, and they might be completely vacant. And the insurance picture is that if you have a vacant building, that's going to be much more hard. That's going to be harder to insure, actually. So the underwriters are not very interested in that. So they need to have really good security programs, even if they don't have any revenue. And as JJ mentioned, you can have a remote monitoring system in place. But there is obviously, if you have an empty building, there can be vagrants coming in. So that is one of the security concerns, that people are just coming in and loitering and being there. Obviously, vandalism is part of that as well. We have challenges in those areas, and there are concerns by our clients with loitering and homelessness. And obviously, we want to be part of the society and find solutions that works for everybody. So those are some concerns. There has been a big uptick in retail theft, and especially in California. And there has been some increases in car breaks in and so on. So there are concerns surrounding the managers or the property owners who wants to put real security solutions in place that will actually keep their assets safe and keep them out of trouble. So
it goes back to what you both have said earlier around communication and making sure that there's peace of mind, this ongoing conversation. I like that we talked a little bit about maybe the hyper local concerns, right? The car break-ins or the parking lot or vacancy, and making sure that no one's taken up residency there and that sort of thing. How about concerns? Are your clients concerned about geopolitical events and global trends? And how are you assuring your clients that they're taken care of and you have a plan for those types of things?
Yeah, we again, we offer all kinds of training to our clients as well. A lot of our management staff are fire safety directors in California, so we'll help our clients create, emergency preparedness manuals. We'll help them do their, yearly evacuation. We'll do floor warden training for them at no cost, and a big part of the floor warden training is about, civil unrest, right? So we want to work with them to come up with the proper lockdown procedure, and how do we notify everybody that the building's locked down, and then how do we notify everyone that the building is back open, that there's no civil unrest outside. So again, having an engaged partnership with them and staying in tune with that together is the ultimate recipe.
Right.
Yeah.
So our headquarters is in San Francisco, and we're actually pretty much next door neighbor to a consulate that has been under pressure recently. And those geopolitical events, they obviously pop up in our neighborhood because people are reacting, they are demonstrating, and we are very proud of having the opportunity to be able to do that. And I think that's obviously something we should all cherish, even if we don't agree and we disagree with what they're protesting about. But that will then be part of what we have to be able to respond to. There's not necessarily civil unrest, but could be disruptive to the traffic, could be disruptive to egress coming in and out of your office. So we really need to be able to have our staff be able to respond to that, work with PD local, and work with the other resources that will be deployed in any situation like that, and then relay information back to the tenants in the building, or relay information back to the property managers, who will then relay information back. So we need to train, as JJ said, on all kinds of different scenarios that can be triggered by a geopolitical event. And for us, we stay in touch, or we stay we're obviously need to be informed about these things. So we're all the time we're kind of monitoring the news flow and what's happening in the world and so on, because it can happen 7,000 miles away, but then, or 10,000 miles away, and then suddenly something pops up in our backyard that's related to that event. So it's very important that we stay in tune with what's going on in the world.
We had mentioned when we talked about the holistic approach, we gave credit to Sandy for that terminology. And yet that's what I'm hearing. There's this ongoing desire and commitment to making sure that you are that security arm to these companies that are your partners. And what a great example of that with all the different aspects that we're talking about. And I'm naive, right? My studio is in a co-work space, and those things are taken care of me. So if I were making the decisions on behalf of these 3 buildings on this campus, I would imagine that I would want to have somebody like you guys in my corner to make sure that we're protected the way that you protect your clients. It's fantastic. How about personal and sensitive information? Do you? We've been talking really around protecting the building. Do you also offer services for security around sensitive information?
We don't really handle sensitive information in that. I mean, if you're talking about credit card information or Social Security, we are not really handling that. We do look at it when we are doing a security assessment, how information is being handled, so we can kind of ensure that it doesn't come into our domain, so to speak, because it's not. We need to, as a security provider, we need to know exactly what comes into our domain so we can manage it. We don't want to have stuff coming into our domain that we're not really aware of, or it's like, oh, well, we're sending this list to you every week. I'm like, why do we need this information? So the client might be doing something that is not necessarily in their best interest because it was just done in the past, and maybe somebody came up with a good idea. It was a good idea at the time, but it's not necessarily needed anymore. So information should be treated as need to know basis, essentially. Who needs really this information? It shouldn't be floating around to people who doesn't need certain information. You should control information. It could always be used in a negative way, or in a way that you can breach some type of security. Maybe we're a little bit more security freaks in that way, so we understand that, and a little bit, I shouldn't say paranoid, but we're a little bit more concerned about information and how we think about security than other people are. But it's important not to share, even if it seems to be a trivial thing. If it's not needed, then it's not needed, and we're really trying to have clear boundaries, what's inside our domain and what's not inside our domain.
And again, education sounds like a big piece of this. Not only are you educating your team, you're also educating the businesses that you're partnering with to make sure that they know what's needed, what's unnecessary, so that the whole domain can be protected.
Right. Well, we handle sensitive information that could obviously, we get sensitive information like into systems and so on. So it's a matter of how we protect that information. And we don't want to have information, passwords and stuff, or whatever it might be, floating around in some binder that somebody can just come and grab. And so, yeah, that's why we really need to know what's coming into our domain, who's got access to that.
Agreed. Yeah, we obviously there's HIPAA laws and things like that. We do train our officers, that medical information is not to be disclosed to anybody and things like that. But yeah, controlling our domain is really important. One of the things that we've been doing recently is kind of auditing how many sites we have that we have master keys to the building. We don't want the liability of having a master key and losing it. So we're doing audits and things like that to ensure that we're kind of covering ourselves and not in possession of things that we don't need to be in possession of.
Right. And it could be a legacy from some previous relationship where it's like, oh, you should have this key, or you should have this, and we're like, okay, well then ask the question, why? Well, because they had it before. Well, that's not enough. Do they really need to get in here? Do they really need to do this thing? So then we ask those questions, which to us are pretty normal question, but sometimes it just doesn't get addressed.
That's my biggest takeaway. And JJ, you had to kind of introduce that into our conversation, that you have become transition masters when it comes to security, not just saying, hey, what did you have before? We're going to do the same thing just because you're used to it.
Right.
Really looking at and assessing, why, to ask the questions, as you just said, Niels, it's just like, why? And hey, here's a better way to do it, or we've learned best practices. This is what this looks like.
Right.
I can imagine then that your clients are ready to say, let's continue to learn and educate and grow with you.
Right.
All right. So lightning round. I want to focus more of the next couple of minutes on you as professionals, because this is always fun. When you were younger, high school, maybe even junior high, a young man, a young kiddo, what did you want to be when you grow up? And at what point did you transition? What led you to what you're doing today? So either one of you can start.
I'll go. So
okay, just jump on.
When I was a kid, there was 2 professions that I wanted to
Yeah.
be in. I wanted to be a pilot. That was to me, it was a very kind of an honorable thing, because the skill set you need for that is, it's not just average run of the mill thing. And the other one was to be an anchorman.
Get out.
Yeah. So those were the 2. And then when I went to college, I was pre-dental because I was going to be a dentist. I'm Persian. All my family is doctors and dentists and lawyers. And so I was pre-dental in college. And then being in the Marine Corps, I was able to, have a lot of friends that were in law enforcement. And so that's what kind of swayed me to finish out my biology degree, but then get into law enforcement afterwards. And,
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Beat that.
Yeah.
So maybe, I'm probably a little older than I look like. I'm very young looking, I guess. So I think I just forgot what I wanted to be when I was in high school. But so if I really don't, I cannot recall if I had any dream job that I was looking for, but I know that my dad probably wanted me to be a engineer because that's what he was. And I did have a grandfather who was a very successful businessman, which I did look up to quite a bit. And I probably at some point I thought that was a good thing, kind of cool thing, but I didn't really know what it was. He was running a larger manufacturing company, but I didn't really know what it meant when I was younger. But so, yeah, did I end up where I was supposed to? I think I did in a way, because I'm a fairly creative person if I think about myself. So I do like to start stuff, and I think I'm fairly good at managing stuff as well. So, we've gone where we're pushing 750 employees now, and it's going from 0 when you actually have to do everything within the company to 750 employees. It's quite the challenge actually as a leader, because you don't necessarily have to have the same skill sets when you're starting out as you need to have when you're running a larger company. So it's I have to look at myself as well. How do I transition with the company? Because I need to change, not necessarily change, but I need to do other things today than I did when we got started. So, which is it's fun. I shouldn't say it's a challenge, but it's fun. So
yeah, well, it's a welcome challenge, right? Stepping out of your comfort zone and stepping up into that leadership role.
To some extent, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's the way you can put it.
And from 0 to 750 employees, did you say in 2015? So in 9 years, you've grown. Am I right on the timeline?
You are right on the timeline.
We've quintupled in size in the last 5 years.
You are right on the timeline.
And so what's next? I had some more, quick fire questions just around you as professionals, but now I need to ask this question. What's the next thing for your company? Are you going to continue to grow into other states? What's the goal?
We are. As I touched upon before, we moved into Arizona. We're in Phoenix now. We're also moving into LA here. We have moved into LA as well. Obviously, that's the same state as we're in, so that's not a new state. But we are going to continue expanding on the West Coast. One of the things that we see where is our opportunity is really, I think Jay touched upon it a little bit, but we haven't really dived into that. We're one of the few regional players left. There are either smaller players or they're very large multinational galaxy companies that are just very, very large. So what we really position ourselves as is the alternative to you. We're large enough to handle, but big enough to care. That's really that
Oh,
mantra.
I love that.
And so we have the resources. You come to us as a client. You're not just going to be a one number in a big pot. If you just think about it, if you let's just say you work with one of the larger companies out there. I mean, these are billion-dollar companies. They have $20 billion in revenue or something like that, or $10 billion in revenue. Pretty big companies. If you come in with your book of business and you have about, say, $500,000 in worth of business, for us, $500,000 worth of business is, that's a significant client. If you have a vendor that is running a $10 billion company, how is your $500,000 business going to really impact them if you take that business somewhere else? Meaning, how much attention are you going to get from that vendor? So if, as we talked about before, if you are running thousands and thousands of hours on one manager, which we're not, but some other companies are, how are you going to compare that to us when we are cutting it off at maybe 3,000 hours?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get way more attention from a smaller company that has the resources than from a larger company that has just grown very large. So, I mean, that's the space that we are trying to fill. That's the space that we're going to continue to fill. So if you're if you're not yourself a billion-dollar company, or you don't have to have the billion-dollar company, but if you don't have a billion-dollar security budget, then you might be better off working with a smaller company.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well put.
And then to that end, as well in terms of diversifying our deliverables, so that I talked about it. We're going into the remote monitoring space, and so we want to continue to evolve as a company and come up with different solutions, that may work for different clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Customizing it, making sure that everybody's taken care of. And Niels, you alluded to this in the middle of our conversation today. Let the businesses that you represent and that you partner with focus on what they need to focus on, whatever their service or product is that they're providing to their customer base and their community. They can be the experts in that, while you continue to be those that protect and secure them,
right,
so that they can do their best as you do your best on their behalf.
Right.
Yeah. Great. All right. So leadership. You both have alluded to the roles that you are in. And so I'm curious how you continue to stay sharp and grow in leadership. You just specifically mentioned, Niels, you're as the company grows, you've got to grow and you've got to stretch. I'm sure the same for JJ as well. Are there books that you read? Are there groups that you participate in? What are some of the things that you do to make sure that you're on your A game?
Good question. I think that I do tend to read quite a few books, actually. Some books are good, some books are not so good. And I do have to give a shout out to Frank Slootman, actually. He used to be the CEO for Snowflake. And I read his book recently, and I really liked it that much. And there was a lot of things in that book that was kind of that I really agreed with, and some of the stuff that I was already doing, and some of the stuff that I wanted to do. Book is called Amp It Up, and so I had all the managers, everybody had to read that book. I bought a copy for them, and we all came back. We had a book club, and we discussed it, and I think well, I know that the consensus was that, yeah, this is kind of us, and this is what we want to do. So he wrote a book that I didn't have to write, so that was great. So
now we just need to wait for your book to come out.
I'm working on it.
Excellent.
But,
I had a hunch.
Yeah.
How about you, JJ?
Yeah. So scaling with a company that went from being 1x to 5x is difficult, especially for me, being in this role for the first time. And now I was the chief operating officer, and now I'm the chief revenue officer, responsible for top line growth and things like that. So now I'm running a sales team and I'm running a marketing team. And those are, traditionally, those are not my cup of tea, because I was always in operations. So yeah, I need to continue to just, like you said, read, get involved with industry partners, and, learn my role more and be able to scale with the company,
Yeah.
because it can get scary. If the
Yes.
company's getting too big and you feel like it's out of control, then that's a problem.
And the awareness of that is huge. And both of you are not only humble, but also experts in what you're doing and willing to speak to the challenges, which is great. I think that's most of the time about 90% of the battle, right? It's when we're clueless and we're not sure why things are challenging and maybe crunchy, and we're not willing to look at ourselves. And I don't hear either of you saying that. You're both saying like, okay, we need to look inward and we need to find out how to make this continue to be the best version of what we're offering. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's you. If you stop growing,
You're
dying.
You're
You're
dying. So
Right.
it's
Sorry, we stole your thunder.
yeah, no, it's okay.
That's the
I
main
get
theme
it.
of that Amp It Up book, is if you're
Yeah.
not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, you're slowly dying. It's just painful. It's and you don't realize it until it's too late. That's the worst part.
Right.
And I know that sometimes decisions that I have made, and maybe JJ is kicking me under the table here, but I'm sure he might have been confused or like, okay, why am I moving into a new role? But I think that if you're too long in the same role, you just stop to grow. And I think it's very important that you get a broader set of tools in order for you to continue to grow. And you need to touch everything in the toolbox for you to understand the components and how they can work together. And sometimes it takes time to learn that process, but it's, in my opinion, it's a must. So you have to keep on moving into new areas. You can't stay in the same area over and over for years and at the time. So
it's learning to ask the right set of questions, and you have to be asking the questions, right? It makes me think of what you said about reading books. Some are good, some are bad, but you don't know that till you've actually opened up the book and read it, and then taken what you can from it, and then leave the rest.
Right.
Well, go ahead.
No, I am also part of a group of other CEOs that we meet on a regular basis. And we have presentations. They come in, and there's a speaker every time we have a meeting. And one of the things that the recent speaker was talking about. So this is one of the. I'm sure the listeners have heard about Vistage. Vistage.
I was going to ask if it was Vistage. Yeah.
So we had a speaker come in, and she was talking about. She had the list. It was the green, yellow, and red, and you were supposed to write down this task that you were doing and this task that you were involved with, and then you should rank them green, yellow, or red. And green was like the stuff that I like, the yellow was the stuff that was kind of okay, and red was the stuff that you really despise doing. And my question, and people were writing down, and it's like, okay, they wrote stuff and it was red, and I said, why do you do the stuff that's red? That was my question. And the people looked at me and were like, well, why you have to? I'm saying, no, you don't have to. You either you find that's the stuff that you need to work on to get away with. I mean, or remove in one way or another. So
delegate it or hire it out.
Yeah. So
or turn it green.
Yeah. Or turn it green.
Yeah.
Right.
You can do that too.
Yes.
So
having a different relationship with that task or that project,
and
from a mindset perspective, is that what you're speaking to, JJ?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also comes down to the skill sets. You might not like it because you don't know it. You don't know how to do it really. So therefore you're struggling with it. Oh, I like doing this.
Right.
It's like, well, but it's because you don't really know how to do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh. Turn everything green.
I love it.
That's my philosophy.
Good. Well, we are not only out of time, we're a little bit over time. So
wow.
Thank you for indulging and staying with me long enough that we can hear some of the deeper conversations and share the insight that you guys have. Where do we stay in touch with ProGuard Security Services? You have a website. What is that website? Is it ProGuard?
It is ProGuardSecurityServices.com.
Okay.
Very long. Which
no mistakes, though. We'll know where to find you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then for potential partners and clients, is it just reaching out through the website? Is it a phone call and just kind of finding out, what the needs are to see if you're a good fit?
That's the best way. I mean, go online again, ProGuardSecurityServices.com. Look for our contact information there. Fill out the form or just call us, and we'll be sure to get back to you. that's the best way, I would say,
Yeah.
email or phone call.
We have a LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn.
We have a
page as well.
LinkedIn presence. We have a Facebook presence as well. We're pretty active on both of them.
Okay,
So
good.
more
you-
on LinkedIn than Facebook, I would
Well,
say.
it sounds like that's the
Yeah.
appropriate place for you.
Yep.
And you both are on LinkedIn as well professionally.
We
Yes.
are.
So good. Well, again, thank you for Sandra Sabatini, who said that this is a conversation we needed to have here on Phoenix Business Radio X. It's been a pleasure to get to know both of you. And we've already been talking a little bit about a part 2, and I have some ideas. So we look forward to inviting you guys back again and sharing the next part of your success story. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean security. And until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.